I'm so grateful to be here. Why is it so noisy in this house? It's all the planes. The planes. This is the problem with living in central London. You have planes like constantly going overhead and landing and at, I almost said Pearson. Friggin', this is Toronto. Hey guys, my name is Megan Ruth. I'm a Canadian living in London, England. I've been here for a few years and I love making videos about my life here in London and British culture. So I try to keep my videos pretty positive and optimistic. I have a running theme throughout my videos about how amazing my life here is in London, how I love living in London, and how moving here from Canada was the best thing that I ever did, essentially. And while all of those things are true, and I do really love living here, I'm gonna be honest, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. I think anybody who has ever moved abroad has struggled at some points in their journey, and I am no different. I think now especially I'm coming up to about 6 months being here after coming back to the UK from Canada in January. And it's around that time, for me anyway, where I start, missing my family, and I start thinking, I want to give my mom a hug, but obviously I can't because I'm across the Atlantic, so that's the thing. And that's just, a harsh reality of living abroad. So my plan for this video is to talk about the reasons why I love living abroad, but also talk about the struggles that come with it. Moving to England this time around back in January wasn't that hard compared to the first time I moved over to England. So if you don't know, if you are brand new to this channel, if you are brand new to, these videos, welcome, hello, my name is Megan, nice to meet you. But I initially moved over to London in 2018, so summer of 2018 is when I moved over. I was here for 2 years on a visa that expired last year, and I went home to Canada for 7 months in 2020, essentially to save money to apply for my next visa, my ancestry visa that I'm on right now. So I kind of have had experiences moving twice to England. Not just once, moving twice. That being said, this time around was a lot easier because I had friends, I had contacts, I had a place to, live right off the bat. It was a lot easier coming over to England this time around than the first time around, because the first time around I didn't really know many people in London, didn't have a job, I didn't have a place to live, I didn't have a lot of things, and it was terrifying. I think that's one of the major positives of moving abroad like that, is it really challenges you. You really have to kind of get your shit together. I experienced so much personal growth that first time around moving over here. I was completely on my own, which was terrifying, but also, invigorating. I've always been a very independent person. I've always wanted to do things on my own. My mom says when I was a kid, one of the first things out of my mouth was, me do, me do. It's one of the first things I could say, which makes sense. I mean, I've always been a very independent person. I've always wanted to be on my own, do my own thing. I think moving over here was kind of the perfect challenge for me in that respect, but it didn't come without its downfalls, and I do want to talk about that a little bit. When I first moved over here in 2018, I went through some major depression. I want to tread lightly on that though, because mental illness is not something you want to make light of or joke about or anything. It is a very serious topic, but I was really depressed for about a couple weeks, actually. I did a program at Guildhall, so that was great. Guildhall, if you don't know, is a theatre school in London. It's one of the top theatre schools in the world. I went there for 3 weeks when I first moved over to London and did a Shakespeare summer program, so that was a lot of fun. And then it finished, and I essentially was in London, not really knowing many people. I just moved into a new flat. I hadn't really found a job yet, and I had to do everything that you need to do when you move over to a new place. I had to get a bank account, I had to get a social insurance number, national insurance number is what you call it over here. Just the paperwork of it all. It was hard because I was also trying not to spend money, but I also wanted to do a bunch of things because I was still in awe that I was in London and that I wanted to do all these things, but I also didn't want to spend money because I didn't have a job. It was quite lonely, actually, because I think it hit me after the program ended that I wasn't going to see my family for a very long time. It really hit me that I was that far away from my family, and I've always been really close to my family. It was like two or so weeks where I was literally just sitting in my room in my new flat just binge watching Netflix and just not really enjoying my experience here at first. And I think that's something that not a lot of people talk about when they do move abroad, is how lonely it is at the start. The friends that I have now, the friends that I consider my closest friends in London, I didn't really meet them probably until like 6 months to a year of being here. So it takes time to accumulate those true friendships. And before then, you know, you're meeting people, like a lot of people that I met at the start, I'm not really friends with anymore. You know, you don't really meet your true friends right away. And you might. I mean, some people might be lucky like that, but it wasn't the case for me. I did get a job, which really helped because I did meet people through that job. Actually, some of my closest friends I met through that job, but it still was a slow burn. It wasn't a fast, you know, I have all these friends right off the bat kind of thing. So it is very lonely at the beginning, and you're in this foreign place. You're so far away from your family and your lifeline, really. And I think that was really hard for me at the beginning. But then obviously it gets better. You know, it really does. Like, you start to meet people, you start to form those connections. And, you know, a year or so into being here, I had a solid group of friends. The other thing is, too, is being so far away from your family, what I've noticed, actually, is I've become a lot closer to my family since moving over here, which is weird. When I was in Toronto, I lived about an hour away from my parents. Because of that, it was just so easy to go back. I maybe talk to my mom like once a month. But since moving over here, there's more of that drive to talk to them more because you miss them more and you want to talk to them. So I think I'm more in tune with my mom's life now than I was when I was living in Toronto. That being said, you are so far away and you do miss things. You miss holidays and birthdays. I've missed a lot being over here, and you kind of get used to seeing your family on a screen. There was one year when I did miss a Christmas. I couldn't afford to go back home for Christmas, and that's another thing too, is flights back home are expensive. So if you're not earning a lot of money, I'm an artist, I don't earn that much money. Because of that, I can't go home as much as, you know, some other people might be able to. And that's tough. That's really tough. The second year that I was here, I missed Christmas in Canada. I couldn't go home because I just couldn't afford to go home. Now, you know, silver linings, I had a friends miss with a couple of my friends. So that was actually really lovely, and that was the first time that I've ever done that. And now I feel like I have two families. I have my friend family in London and my true family over in Canada. And I kind of feel like I'm split between the two. Like when I was back in Canada last year, I missed London. I missed my life here. I felt like I had a foundation over here that I miss so dearly, and my friends as well. I miss my friends, and I was really upset having to go back to Canada. But obviously when I'm here, I miss my family. And I kind of wish there was this way to combine them both. Like I wish I could take my London life here and put it in Canada, or bring my parents and the rest of my family over to London, you know. But I can't, and that's just the harsh reality of it. I'm kind of split between two places that I love for different reasons, and that's gonna be the case for the rest of my life. And now I'm thinking into the future, like what I want to do for the future. My visa that I'm on is 5 years. Do I want to stay here after the 5 years? Because I can apply for indefinite leave to remain. I can, have a pathway to citizenship, but that's expensive. And do I want to spend all that money for this life that I love? Or do I want to go back to Canada and, be with my family, be with my parents as they grow older? Because that's something else I need to consider. I'm a very live for the moment kind of person. I don't know what I'm going to want to do in 5 years, so I'll probably know in 5 years' time what I want to do. But it is something that is in the back of my mind. Thank goodness for technology, because I don't know if I would be able to do this without it, really. Just essentially all the ways you can keep up with people. Now that we do have access to these tools, it just makes living abroad so much easier. I think of my grandparents who moved over from Wales to Canada in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 1950s. And they left their families here, and they started a new life in Canada, and I'm thinking, wow, like that's brave. What I'm doing is not it's not really brave. I get people saying that to me a lot. Oh, you're so brave for moving abroad. But I really think of my grandparents who did not have access to any of that technology, and they made it work. It just amazes me that they did that. But despite all of these hardships, I am still so grateful to be living here. I count my lucky stars every day. Anytime I, go outside and see the city, I still pinch myself. I still can't really believe that I'm here sometimes. But as the great Mark Manson says, if you don't know Mark Manson, he is the author of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. But as the great Mark Manson says, you have to know what you're willing to struggle for. Every decision comes with a cost. You are going to struggle in any road you take. It's just a fact of life. You have to know what you're willing to sacrifice. I do think if you do have the ability and means to live abroad, I do think you should do it. Absolutely. I think everybody should live abroad. This is literally my mantra. Everybody should live abroad at one point of their life. Should they do it for the extended period of time I'm doing it? Maybe not. But even 6 months to a year, I think it's just life-changing. To be able to experience personal development and to see other cultures and live in another culture, and it really gives you perspective. It really just opens your eyes to a whole new level. So I think if everybody had the experience of living in another country for even for a few months, I think the world would be a much kinder place. This video might just be really, really long, guys. I'm sorry. Sorry in advance that this video is really long. Kind of talking out of my ass right now, but it is a subject that I've been wanting to touch on for a while. That's it. That is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do remember to like and subscribe. I really do appreciate the support and all of that jazz. Bye, guys.